in our judicial system, when you look at it today, a black person will commit a crime, white person will commit the same crime. Who get more time? It's proven. And the Colonel Commission report, which I talked about briefly at the courthouse, the Colonel Commissioner's report that we look at, that was formulated in 1967, they've been studying, under Johnson, they've been studying since 1967, the conditions of the black community. And one of the things that they found out is that we have two nations within the United States of America, one black, one white, one equal, one unequal. They found out every single year that they released these reports that at the end of the year, a black person will commit a crime, a white person will commit the same crime, and the black person will get more time. Fact. Now you can say it don't exist all you want, but the fact of the matter is, it's there. It's there. There's no doubt about it. When we look at our education system, and just as in the educational system, you see all the time young black kids doing things, young white kid do the same thing, the black kid get a stiffer penalty. We see it everywhere. We see it in the banking system, P system. We see it in the banking system. You go apply for a loan, Rodriguez. Another white guy go apply for a loan. Same credentials. Guess who gets the loan? He does. And if you get the loan, guess what? He get lower interest rate. Fact. Listen, these things we don't have to argue. And we also should not be afraid to talk about it. At some point, we have to be honest with what's happening in this country. And I am telling you, there's a huge disparity when you look at education, when you look at business. As a business person, I can tell you a lot of stories. When you look at religion, so if we see all of these barriers, this lopsided stuff in business, if we see it in education, if we see it in the judicial system, what makes you think it ain't in the church? It's in there, but we ain't talking about it.
When 90%
right?
of our nation claim Christianity.
90% of our nation claim Christianity.
Why would it be a disparity?
And it's so divided, the most divided hour is from 11 to 12. But yet, Christianity is supposed to be all-inclusive, right? And it's supposed to be a balanced system. So we have to deal with these issues and not be afraid to talk about them. We got to look at these issues for what they are, right? And not cut anything, just straight, no chaser at all, just straight on it. Let's deal with it today. Modern day Christianity, the foundation of white supremacy, right? It's not that Christianity is the foundation of white supremacy. Modern day Christianity is. But properly taught, and we flipped it, white supremacy is the foundation for modern day Christianity. Now you tell me I'm wrong as we go through this lecture. All right, so now why am I saying this? I'm saying this because I understand our history in this country. I understand. You got something, brother?
I'll say I can't see because the books.
Oh, brother, let me shut these books down. You got it, brother? All right, so I'm sorry, brother. I'll be stacking them high sometimes. Yeah, so what happens is that Christianity, let's look at it. Christianity, historically speaking, was a system whereby man became one with God and expressed his godness in every aspect of life. Let me stop right here for a second. Christianity, historically speaking, is different from the Christianity of today. Because when we look at the historical understanding of Christianity, it's nothing like what we see now. Now, Christianity, you got to understand this. Those of you that are listening on the live stream, you got to understand this. Christianity, as you understand it today, was stolen from ancient Africa. I'm going to show you in a second. It was stolen, and then when they got it, they didn't understand the bag of goods that they had. And so because they didn't understand the bag of goods, they misinterpreted the scriptures. They misinterpreted the understanding. How do we know? Because what our ancestors practiced as it relates to Christianity is nothing like this. Now watch this. When they stole Christianity and they went in and took this religion called Christianity, if you didn't tell them what they wanted to know about Christianity, you know what they would do to the priests? Kill them! Are you listening? They would kill them. Because many of the priests knew that they weren't supposed to just give that information freely. But then not only that, the priests had the ability to read the person's body language, the person's mind, don't you act Somewhere it's written that Jesus knew their thoughts before they spoke them. Come on now. That's African culture. So now these priests, they knew that when these European explorers would come up and want this information, they would immediately try not to give it to them. And if they gave it to them, they would mislead them on the information that they gave them. So once these guys that came in from Europe started to understand that these priests were misleading them, they started beheading them if they didn't tell them the truth. So you had a lot of priests that were giving up this information that shouldn't have. Now I want you to understand something right out the gate. What we teach, and it's up to you to accept it, we teach truth. Now it says Christianity, historically speaking, was a system whereby man became one with God. Can you handle that? Can you handle that? I guess not. Well, let me speak for myself. I can handle that. I understand that the sole purpose of religion that we call Christianity historically was to make man one with God. Go to the book of Genesis chapter 1, verse 26. God made man in what? His image. And what else? His likeness. And gave him dominion. That means he gave him the ability to dominate. Now, if God made me in his image and likeness, what does that mean? Let's talk about it. Say it again. I'm him, right? If he made me in his image and his likeness, I am him. I'm one with him. Go back to the original, whereby man became one with God. Now, watch this. If you think you God, listen, you move like God. You act like God. But if you don't think you God, you act otherwise. Now, we're talking Christianity. Book of Psalms, chapter 82, verse 6. You got your Bible, brother? Book of Psalms, chapter 82, verse 6. I'm going to let brother read it. But here's what I need you to understand. See, Sister Lena, it was etched in stone. 82, 6. Psalms 82, 6. It was etched in stone that you had to believe that man is in the image of the Creator. That man is in the likeness of the Creator. Psalms 82, 6.
82 and 6. I say, you are gods. You are all children of the Most High.
Stop. You are what?
All the children of the Most High.
Ye are all gods, sons and daughters of the Most High God. This was original Christianity.
Can you read that scripture one more time for me, brother?
I say, you are gods. You are all children of the Most High.
Now that was the law. That was the law. Now go to the book of John, chapter 10, starting at the 28th verse. Book of John, chapter 10, 28th verse. That right there was the law that John is writing about in the book of John, chapter 10, starting at the 28th verse. We got to take this thing.
Yes.
When you're ready, brother.
I give them eternal life, and they will never perish. No one can snatch them away from me. For my Father has given them to me, and he is more powerful than anyone else. No one can snatch them from the Father's hand. The Father and I are one.
Stop right there. The Father. Now this is Jesus talking. See, now what happens, Sister Lena, is that a lot of preachers will stop right there. Jesus saying he and the Father are one. Right? This is what Jesus is saying. Stay right there for a second. But if you go to the book of Matthew, chapter 6, verse 9, Jesus said, pray on this wise. Our Father. Now, Jesus is letting you know that you and him have the same Father. Now, if Jesus is saying, I am one with the Father, that also means the true one with the Father. Now, why aren't they teaching this today? Now, go ahead, sister.
And there's also another scripture to tie in with that. Father, make them one as we are one.
Oh, ain't no doubt about it. Beautiful.
We're not separated.
We're not separated. We're one with the Father no matter how you shape it. But nowadays, they've disconnected the Father from us. They put him on the other side of Pluto. We don't need that kind of Father. When my son wake up in the middle of the night, if he experienced something traumatic, he call his dad. And I come running up the stairs. But the fact of the matter is, we need a Father that we can reach. And your Father is right in here. And he's attainable. Now, you were at John 10, around the 29th. Go to 30. Keep reading for me, brother. Putting you on the spot today. First time in.
It's all right, brother. The Father and I are one. Once again, the people picked up stones to kill them.
Now stop right there. Now you asked the question, we were talking earlier, you went to church and they were talking about getting these false prophets. Now, they want to kill Jesus because he's teaching against what they've already been taught. See, they were given a false understanding from the gate. But when Jesus comes on the scene, he's correcting that. Watch that. I'm coming. Watch this. Now keep reading. Me and the Father are one, right?
Once again, the people picked up the stones to kill him. Jesus said, at my Father's direction, I have done many good works. For which one are you going to stone me? They replied, we are stoning you We are stoning you not for any good work, but for blasphemy. You are mere man claiming to be God.
Stop for a second. Now they're picking up stones. They want to stone Jesus. Because, listen, man, Jesus is an African at the root, like it or not. And I know, I ain't going to get into it today. He's an African, like it or not. Now they're picking up stones. They want to stone him because here this man is, Brother Rodriguez, on the scene talking about he's God. Talking about he's one with God. Why you want to stone him? It's the truth. Now, look at what Jesus said. After they pick up these stones and he asked them, for which one of my works do you look to stone me for? And they said, we stone you not for your good works, but you being a man, maketh thyself God. Well, who in the heck am I supposed to be? Who am I supposed to be other than the Father that created me? I'm not supposed to be anybody other than him. I'm not going to claim an elephant to be my father. I'm not going to claim a donkey to be my father. I'm claiming God. Now, if I'm claiming God to be my father, then the same power that my father have, I have. Our problem is this, though. We are not taught this. And because we're not taught it, we don't manifest it. But what I'm saying to you today, although you don't see us outwardly manifesting it, the day is coming where you have no choice.
God,
that you will manifest the workings of God. But first you got to accept this. I am the Son of God. Hold on a second. I'm coming, Lena. Go ahead, brother. Finish it off.
I'm just praising God.
Yes, hallelujah. Yes.
Jesus replied, it is written in your own scriptures.
No, is that the King James reading?
No, this is not.
Okay, in the King James it said, it is written in your law. That's fine. It's written in your law that ye are gods. Come on. I gave you the law, Psalms 82:6. What Jesus was telling them is that if you're claiming, I'm going to just put it in modern terms, I hope y'all don't mind. If you're claiming to be an Israelite, if you're claiming to be a black man, then it is law that you accept the fact that ye are gods. But what is happening is that you ain't accepting this. And you ain't accepting it. I'm sorry, let me get proper. You're not accepting this because of your teachings. You've been given a false understanding of Christianity. And I would be foolish to stand up here and to continue to perpetuate the nonsense. We need to get away from that. See, that understanding that we were given is the reason why we act like we act today. It's the reason why we do what we do today. And you know and I know that what we're doing is out of line with God.
It ain't working.
And it ain't working. And the church are the main perpetuators and main proponents of this nonsense. Now watch. The churches are beheading people today that are telling the truth. Because if you tell the truth in the church, they're kicking you out. They don't want that. They want to continue to suck. They want to continue to ride on tradition. Now, let me get this thing right. So it says, the ancient Africans saw us as one with God, and he alone. It's not that the ancient African worshiped other gods. They saw you as one with God. Period. And because they saw you as one with God, they saw the power of God operating in you. Does somebody have a question? Okay, good. All right. Psalm 82:6. Now, watch this. Christianity was a system where man was one with nature and the order of God was at the foundation. Now, to show you the importance of man being one with nature, this is very important that we understand this. That means that man understood his natural environment. Man understood his natural habitat. Man had a relationship with nature that caused him to bring the best up out of nature. What do I mean? What I mean by that is that back long, before there was anything in modern medicine, people could go and use herbs and heal people. Fact. Figs. Heal people. People could do this. And they could do it because they were one with nature. But what has happened over the years is that we have been removed from these concepts. And these very concepts that we have been removed from, we got to find a way to go back to. See, grandmama knew what she was doing. Great-great-grandmama knew what she was doing. But we have abandoned great-great-grandmother and settled for these modern Christian concepts that mean us no good. Are y'all all right so far? Mm-hmm. 2 Corinthians 13:5. Here it is right here. Look at this. It says, examine yourselves whether you be in the faith. Prove your own selves. Let me stop for a second. Now look at this, Rodriguez. This is very serious. The Bible is saying, examine yourself. It doesn't say examine your pastor. It doesn't say examine your wife, your child. It says examine yourself. Now check it out, Lena. It says, prove your own selves. Know ye not your own selves how Jesus Christ is in you. What the Bible is telling us is to examine our day-to-day walk. Examine our own understanding. And in examining your understanding, find the Christ factor in you. Not up in the sky. In you, I die on this. This point, that God is in you. You have to accept it. You don't understand power until you understand the power that's given to you by God.
Man. Teach them.
See, and right now, we refuse to open that bag up. But the fact of the matter is, there's a greater power in you than you understand. But you won't come into that power as long as you're believing traditional Christianity. You won't walk into that power as long as you're believing a religion that separates God from you. Now, I know we're not perfect, but we need to be marching towards it. We need today to take on the understanding that God is here. And see, when you understand that God is here, your walk is different. Your talk is different. Your approach towards problem solving is different. Your approach towards raising your children is different. Your approach towards your community is different. We have to accept the fact that God is in us. But the reason why we don't understand it is because they beheaded the priests. They beheaded the prophets. They beheaded the anointed. And when they beheaded them, the teachings fell. And the Romans took up the teachings. And they destroyed the teachings according to African tradition. Now, those of you that are listening, if you can't grasp this, I don't know what to tell you. It's plain in understanding. Let's keep rolling. It says, know ye not your own selves, know how that Jesus Christ is in you, except you be reprobates, non-believers, backsliders. Now, let's look at the word supremacy. Because the lecture title today is Modern Day Christianity, the Foundation of White Supremacy. But I'm going to show you that white supremacy is the foundation for modern day Christianity. Now, let's take a little walk. Now, what do we mean when we say supremacy? It's straight back. Sister want to go to the bathroom. Yeah. What do we mean when we say supremacy? Belief that one's race, white in particular, is superior to the rest of the world. Such behavior is advocated by radical organizations such as the Ku Klux Klan and the Nazis in Germany in the 1930s and the 1940s. They taught on a system called white supremacy. But do you know there's no such thing as white supremacy? Because supremacy suggests that you're greater than, that you're better than. And they're saying it's like that because of their race. This is a lie. And I can show you in a lot of ways why it's a lie. Watch this. Supremacy is the state of having the ultimate authority. A ruling king has supremacy over his kingdom. Now, Jesus, if we're going to use any act of supremacy, then we can say he was supreme in his understanding of God. But his supremacy made him deliver that understanding to you. Right? Look, if Jesus desired that you have the same understanding that he had about God, then that means that Jesus didn't consider himself supreme. He considered himself equal to you. That's why he tried to give you what he had. We got to understand this thing today. So now look at this. White supremacy is a global system of people who classify themselves as white and are dedicated, abusing and or subjugating everyone in the known universe whom classify as non-white. Did y'all get that? White supremacy is a global system of people who classify themselves as white and are dedicated to abusing and or subjugating everyone in the known universe who classify themselves as non-white. Fact.
Big fact.
Show me that I'm wrong. Fact. Look at all around the world today. All around the world today. Come here, young brother. All around the world today. Look at what's happening. All around the world. Go up top. Go up top with the big brother. All around the world today, when you look at it, they're dominating based on supremacy. Let me show you what I mean. So, when you look in Africa today, one of the biggest cosmetic selling agents is bleaching cream. Bleaching cream. What they're telling the Africans is that the lighter you are, the better off you are. Now, I spent a lot of time in Asia, but specifically Southeast Asia. When I first started going, I started looking at the magazines, and for the first 5 pages, you see different bleaching cream products. So now, when you go into Asia, you know, there's a lot of people in Asia in general. But let's go to Vietnam for a minute. And they ride motorbikes all day long. You see Vietnamese with their hands covered all the way up and long sleeve shirt on. It's 110 degrees outside. They cover their faces. They put shades on because they want to block the sun because they don't want to be dark. Right? They don't want to be dark. But there's a group in Vietnam, especially when you start dipping over into Cambodia and Laos, and you start seeing these old statues in the jungles of men with broad noses and full lips that look just like us, right? These statues are so old that trees are growing up in them now. But as you continue to travel, you will find people in Vietnam, Cambodia, and Laos area darker than me and all of y'all. You find that. But those people are treated in a way that's inconsistent with how they treat the lighter. Yes, ma'am. Thank you, sister. How they treat the lighter skinned people, right? So now, in understanding that, what I'm trying to show you is that all across the world, when you start traveling in the dark nations, they're bleaching their skin because they want to look white. So when you go in Vietnam, what you will find is that the lighter complected people work indoors. They get the better jobs. They make the most money.
That's in America too.
The darker complected, I'm coming to America. The darker complected people are outside. Now, this is white supremacy. And this is what they're spreading across the entire world. You know, Dr. Dodo and Dr. Kofi that come here, they said in Sudan, people used to be, black like this. They used to be black like this. But now they're Malcolm's complexion. Look at this. Look at it. They're Malcolm's complexion now. Because they're bleaching their skin. These things we have to get away from, family. This is what I'm telling you. But this is all a part of white supremacy. Most of the priests that you see in Catholicism, they white. Most of the high-ranking bishops in the United States of America, they white. This is the case all throughout. Most of the imams in Islam, they're white. Now what happened? It's white supremacy. Look at this right here. The wealthiest families on earth are white. The agenda of earth is controlled by whites. The major wars on earth financed and prosecuted by whites. The educational system controlled by whites. The entertainment, all of that. I am not lying to you. I have no reason to. But here's the thing. We got to understand this, right? We got to understand this. Now, most everyone on the planet, including non-whites, is a white supremacist. And we don't even know it. Did y'all get that? Everyone on the planet, including non-whites, are white supremacists. In mindset. We don't think like black men because we don't understand what black men think like. Because we've been given an understanding that's anti-black. The understanding that you were given causes you to shift away from your traditional ways. I just showed you in the scripture, but I'll show you more in a second. Every person on the face of the earth is a white supremacist. Look, I don't mean no harm. We dress like white folk. Look at me. Look at this white boy stuff right here. The fact, no, it's a fact, right? I'm not trying to. This is just what it is, right? We style ourselves like white folk. We don't even realize it. We eat like them. Look, man, I'm going to just tell you. I'm going to shoot straight with you. I would never eat a steak with pink in it. Never. I would never do that. Man, I started going to California, hanging out with them cats in the valley. Now I get it medium well, but I used to get it burnt crispy if I eat a steak. But now when we eat it now, we got a little pink strip in it, right? But see what I'm saying? We pick it up as wage, right? So now look at this. It says all people who call themselves white take advantage of the worldwide white supremacy system, and many of them take advantage of it, not even realizing there's such a thing called white privilege. It's serious. It's a serious psychological phenomenon. Right now, I remember in the 60s when a black man would have an ice truck over here, white man would have an ice truck 2 miles down the street. You live next door to the black guy who got the ice truck, and you go 2 miles and get the ice from the white guy. And then you would say his ice colder than this man's ice over here. This is the nonsense that we've been given. So when I moved to Brooklyn, in 1992, I opened up a pizzeria. I was living in Brooklyn at the time. Did you go over there? You came over there once or twice. And I started learning things about business that were real serious. I could go to a place in Brooklyn called a Bowery and buy stuff for my pizzeria, and it would cost me 30 to 40% more. So I got smart. I just got one of my Italian friends to start going to the Bowery and buying my stuff. And I saved 30 to 40%. Well, that's white privilege. Where you walk in because of your skin color, you already get privilege. You understand what I'm saying? Hey, we see white privilege in the court system all the time. We see it in the educational system all the time. Now, many white people will deny that exists, but they're the benefactors of it. They think we crazy. Like many white people denied that police brutality was as bad as it is until they started seeing black boys getting shot down by white officers. That's white supremacy thing. Y'all know what that is?
Nah.
Yeah, I don't either. That's good. Who said no? That's right. We don't know who that is. But the fact of the matter is, they taught us that it was who? Jesus.
Crackers on my TV.
They taught us that this was Jesus. Now here's the scary thing. Brother, you just left church. Y'all got images of him up? Good God Almighty. What? No, brother. In 2018? Yeah, for real? Yeah, they got, I know, that's fine. See, this is the danger in white supremacy. Because if you remember, we did our little test here in our summer camp where we had the basketball guys in here for the summer camp system. And we went around the room asking people who this was. And I used this picture like I always use. I said, who is this? They said, Jesus. Jesus. Then we got to 2 kids. I said, who is this? God. Another kid. God. Do you see the fear, the danger? Because blonde hair, blue eyes, thin nose, thin lips, white skin, God, Jesus. Dark skin, wide nose, kinky hair, the opposite of Jesus. And what's the opposite of good?
Bad.
And what's the opposite of God?
Devil.
So now black is associated. You see the dangers in Christianity? Mm-hmm. This is what I'm saying. You can't find this description, Brother Rodriguez, nowhere in the Bible.
Jeez.
Nowhere. As a matter of fact, any of you that's going to churches, tell the preacher, say, show me this in the Bible. Show me this in the Bible. They can't do it. You know why? Because this is white supremacy. And white supremacy is really a falsity. But this is white supremacy. And I'm glad that brother is here today. I don't want to pick on brother. But the fact of the matter is, in 2018, we rocking like that? And check it out now, brother. Heart to heart. We have to be careful, all of us, where we let our children go. Because our children would absorb, and I grew up in this, like all of us, we all grew up in this. But this is the false prophecy that we were talking about, false doctrine that we were talking about earlier today. Who is that supposed to be? See what I'm saying? You see how they do us? Now look, you can't find this description nowhere in the Bible. One more time, brother, if you don't mind. Go to Exodus chapter 4 real quick.
When Moses, after he done got the 10 Commandments off the mount.
Sit up straight. Exodus 4. See, we got to unravel a lot of this stuff that's been given to us.
4 and what?
Go to 4, starting at the 6th verse. Let's hear the description of Moses.
Then the Lord said to Moses, now put your hand inside your cloak.
Now stop right there. Now, you got the King James on the other side of that or no? That's right. You can say it. Stay where you are. Stay where you are. Put your hand inside your cloak. Boom. Here we go. All right, go ahead.
So Moses put his hand inside his cloak.
It's in there.
And when he took it out again, his hand was white as snow.
Stop for a second. Now, look. He put his hand in his cloak. Boom. Then God says, take it out. When he take it out, it's white as snow. And what God say next?
With a severe skin disease, now put your hand back into your cloak.
Put your hand, now stop for a second. That says, I don't read the NIV. That says a severe skin disease. Because look, when he took it out, he had a severe skin disease called what?
Whiteness.
Leprosy. Leprosy.
Well,
Right,
that
now watch
Bible
this.
said whiteness?
Look, now you go back in. Go ahead, keep reading.
Then the Lord said, so Moses put his hand back in, and when he took it out again, it was healthy as the rest of his body.
All right, so in other words, it's normal. So we know that Moses' skin complexion is not white. Right? We know that. Because when he put his hand in, one color going in, when it came out, it was white. God was trying to demonstrate something. But we can take where Moses come from. Moses is from Egypt, Levi. His daddy was an Egyptian. And in Egypt goes back to the Greek word, Kemet, which means what? Land of the black. Right? So we know Moses had to be black. Ain't no white boy in that. But see, the point that I'm trying to make, this is the danger in white supremacy. Because we start letting our children get this, and their minds start growing towards white supremacy. And then what happens is that you go into a city like Chicago now, a black guy bump into a black guy, and then turn around and blow his brains out. Because there's no value on black life because of white supremacy. You don't value black life. You value that same black boy would have bumped into a white boy and turned around and said, I'm sorry. Black guy he bumped into, the first thing he wanted to do is blow his brain out because he don't value the black life. And we don't value black lives like we should because we're taught this from birth, man. Your mamas and your grandmamas reading this book, teaching you this. And this is why our communities are in the condition that they are in. And this is why our children are suffering like they're suffering because they believe in this garbage. But you can't find these descriptions nowhere in the Bible. You won't find them. You won't find where Moses is pictured as a white man with white hair. You won't find it. It's not in the scripture. And besides, not only that, 4,000 years ago, you wouldn't find people white complected in that region. These are the kind of things that we have to look at. Now, any questions? What you got, brother? I'm coming, sister.
It's funny you said that because me and my wife was watching a segment on in Russia, the art treasury, the art gallery. Moses is black.
Black. Jesus black.
Jesus
What?
black.
Yeah.
And when we was looking, I was saying, no, this can't be real. We looking at stuff like, and I said, no, this can't be real. But I was understanding that this is real.
And I'm going to show you the description of Jesus in the Bible. I'm going to show it to you. Like, we got a glimpse on what color Moses was, right? Now, and I'm going to show you why the Egyptians were the same. Leviticus 25 and 55, when you get a chance. So, check this out. Sister, you had a question.
Why they don't teach this in school? This is the true social studies. Is that why a lot of kids don't succeed in world history and social studies because it's not facts, so they can't resonate with it?
I believe that.
Yeah, they should be teaching it, but they don't want to teach us the truth because we're the hidden ones, man. If they teach us the truth, a lot of things that we're seeing in this world, we're gonna walk up out of.
But it's not their job to teach us on who we are.
Sister,
We have to teach
you are
ourselves.
so right. God knows you're right.
Study to show thyself.
Exactly.
Sister, you don't even know how right you are. That, yeah, it's our responsibility.
It's our responsibility to teach. It's my responsibility to teach Zaire that this is not Moses. Moses is not the right man.
Right.
You know,
the problem is that most of our people don't know that.
Most of our people will want to argue with you if you tell them that this is not what it is.
Yeah, they say Jesus ain't got a color. They say he not.
Oh, I mean, we're gonna debunk that.
But they showed
All right,
them
now go to it's 25 and 55. Then I want you to go to Amos 9 and 7.
They say all color.
Yeah, okay, we're gonna debunk that nonsense.
55, 25. For the people of Israel set free, for the people of Israel belong to me. They are my servants whom I brought out of the land of Egypt.
All right,
I
stop
am
right
the
there.
Lord your God.
All right, now go to Amos 9 and 7. So now what we're saying is that these people are God's people, Israel, that came out of Egypt, right? Now the Egyptians and the Ethiopians are the same according to the scripture. So go to Amos 9 and 7 real quick. Let's look at this thing. And then if you look at the writing of Herodotus, one of the early Greeks that went into Africa, he said that the Egyptians and the Ethiopians are the same. They got broad nose, kinky hair, and thick lips. They're one and the same, right? So in understanding this, none of these things are given to us in our Sunday school lesson, in our churches. They continue to perpetuate white supremacy. And in 2018, and if you got a church in 2018 that got pictures of a white Jesus up, something is wrong with that church. Something is wrong with that teacher. I don't mean no harm. I don't care who he is. If you walked in here and saw a white Jesus up, y'all should run out. You should run out. Go ahead, brother. Amos 9 and 7.
Are you Israelites more important to me than the Ethiopians? Asked the Lord. I brought the Israel out of Egypt, but I also brought the Philistines from Crete.
Now stop. This version, the NIV, brother. I'm gonna get, if you don't mind, because that right there is serious. If you don't mind, if you could go to Amos 9 and 7 in the King James and look at it. See, we get more and more distorted. The King James is already distorted. Mm-hmm. You get more and more distorted as you move away from that. You follow what I'm saying? So now what has to happen is that we have, and I appreciate you reading today, brother. So now let's keep rolling. So to respond to what you were saying in the back, this is the Pope in the Catholic Church in the Vatican. Look at what they bow down to. A black Jesus, a black Mary, and a black Jesus. Because they understand the science. Right? But they don't give this out openly. And yes, in Hungary, in Yugoslavia, Czechoslovakia, Eastern Europe, in Russia, the Ukraine, yes, you see the black pictures. Yes, sir, brother.
I'm not trying to get off the topic, but people say that Abraham Lincoln freed the slaves, but he didn't.
Okay. Well, who freed the slave? What? Give me some more. Can you give me some more? But you say he didn't free them, right? I agree with you. I agree with you. He signed a document called the Emancipation Proclamation. He signed it in 1863. The slaves were supposedly freed in 1865. And during that time period, they were not freed. They were not freed until the 13th Amendment was passed. And the 13th Amendment says you cannot keep another man as a servant involuntarily. So you're right. Abraham Lincoln did not free the slave. He freed some, but not all. It was the 13th Amendment that freed the slave, that they legislated in 1865, and blacks were freed after the Civil War. By the way, does anybody know how many black soldiers fought in the Civil War?
No.
200,000. And that monument right here on the corner of Hyde and King, that's in commemoration of that. That's what that monument is all about.
So that will
And that's the oldest monument in the world.
I don't know if it's the oldest, but it's one of the only ones left for recognizing the Black Civil War fight.
Sure.
Amos 9:7.
Hereford.
9 and 7. Are you not as children of Ethiopia unto me, O child of Israel?
Stop right there. Are you not as the Ethiopians unto me, O child of Israel. This is the part that I wanted to. You can keep reading the verse, but we're just.
Saith the Lord, have not I brought up Israel out of the land of Egypt, and the Philistines from Captor, and the Syrians from Kir.
Okay, great. So anybody got a question before I go on? Somebody had something? Okay, what you got, brother?
Never
Okay.
mind. It's fine.
Okay, so now let's look at religion and Congress. So we all agree that what we see today as modern day Christianity is inconsistent with what our ancestors taught. Now, am I saying that Christianity was in Africa before it was in Rome? Absolutely. 100%. It was in Africa before it was in Rome. And what you call Christianity, well, I don't want to open this up too much. What we call Christianity was a way of life that the ancient Africans practiced. It was a way of life that God had given to us as his first creation in the very beginning. Okay, when we look at religion right here, right, it says, and religious affiliation of members of Congress, Protestant, Catholic, Jewish, Mormon, Orthodox, going right down the road. But all of these are legs of Christianity. All of these are legs of Christianity. So the most practiced religion in Congress is the leadership and authority of Christianity. But within Christianity is white supremacy. So you got people who are practicing white supremacy under the name of Christianity that are legislating laws. This is the system that we talk about. It's there, whether we want to own up to it or not. That system is there and it's alive and it's real. Listen, that's why in 1996, when President Bill Clinton passed those 3 strikes you're outlaws for crack cocaine and things, and all these black men got locked up, that's white supremacy. How could he have done it unless he had white supremacists working with him in Congress? It's white supremacy. And this is what they legislated. Now, look at the same thing with the opium. Now they made it so it's not even criminal if you have opium. You get sent to the doctor. You get sent to somebody to counsel you. But if it were black people dealing with crack cocaine in the 80s and 90s, you get 19 years in jail. First time offenders. Boy got 2-3 kids. 19 years in a federal institution. White supremacy under the name of Congress affiliated with Christianity. African Americans currently make up about 13% of the U.S. population, but have historically been underrepresented in Congress. We know that. We're totally underrepresented. Now, here's where it starts, April's. This is when all the changing started. The first council of Nicaea. It's not the only council, but the first council of Nicaea is when they started to change the religion. If we study Christianity, we got to study the first council of Nicaea, so we'll understand how it was formulated, right? So now, where did the first council of Nicaea come from? It was a place called Alexandria of Rome, which is modern-day Turkey. It was in the year 325 that Constantine commissioned 250 bishops to come together to lay out Christianity. Now, before that, Constantine was in war in 312 with his brother-in-law. When Constantine went into Alexandria of Egypt, he saw something that he'd never seen before. He saw black people worshiping God in a way that he, as a pagan, had never seen. There was one priest in particular, his name was Arius. When Arius finished preaching, he would do like many of our traditional African preachers would do and come down and start laying hands on the sick. Where do you think Jesus got it from? It's African culture. This is what we used to do. So he would lay hands on the sick and heal the sick. Constantine said there's no way that we can allow these people to have all this power. So he told Arius, I want you to come. And he commissioned 250 bishops to go to the Council of Nicaea in Alexandria of Rome, which is modern-day Turkey. And when he went there, they started ripping up and destroying the ancient African doctrine. They destroyed the Library of Alexandria, which had 1 million volumes of book, 1 million volumes. Each volume has volumes. Everything they couldn't take out, they burned. So all of our historical documentation as it relates to our religion, they destroyed. And during the Council of Nicaea, they're bringing on their own spin on our religion, which minimizes us and raises them. So now they deify Jesus and they change his color. And once they did that, they started perpetuating this lie throughout all of Christianity over the years. So when I say, when you're practicing Christianity, you're practicing white supremacy, it's fact. Because if you're honoring this, if you see in churches today this and this is undoubtedly white supremacy. Now, watch this. So Constantine, they were pagans. Constantine saw that Arius had a high understanding of religion. Arius was the only black bishop that went into Turkey or Alexandria. He was the only one. And when Constantine was giving his spin on Christianity, Arius was in denial with him. And because Arius was in denial with Constantine, and Constantine was the man, he was the emperor, how dare you go against what I said? So the next Saturday morning, Arius was found dead in the bathroom. They said he died from a stomach virus, and I'm sure he did. But who gave it to him? You see, when you go against traditional teachings and understanding, you have to be willing to sacrifice much of yourself. Because this beast is serious about keeping you in the dark. And this is why you continue to see these pictures around everywhere you go. This is why you continue to see that. Well, we know it's a lie. Now let's get a little further. Y'all all right? Anybody got any questions? Okay, let's keep rolling. Here are more pictures of it that come out of that. Jesus is also considered the Lamb of God. And we hear in that fable, Jesus had a little lamb. His feet were what? White. Look at the brother got it. And everywhere that Jesus went, the lamb was sure to go, right? White supremacy. Now, Jesus himself, you can't find anything describing him as being white in the Bible. You can't find it. And the reason why you can't find it is because it's a lie. Now, here's another picture. He the light of the world. Now how he the light of the world, he can't absorb light.
Teach.
I'm just asking, how is he the light of the world if he can't absorb it? He can't.
Teach. He
So
can't
therefore he can't be the light of the world if he can't absorb it. Now, look at this. I'm showing you the white supremacy in all of this. This is on the tomb of ancient Egypt, on the pyramid walls. The early Egyptians, ain't no banging against that. These people are complexion. These people look like us, whether we want to own it or not. Calling the ancient Egyptians black isn't a myth making. The Greek writer Herodotus said the people of Colossus must be Egyptians because, like them, they are black skinned and woolly hair. Him describing it. Why? Now, why is it so interesting that Herodotus gives this description? Because Herodotus was studying in ancient Egypt. Just as all Socrates died, Plato studied in Egypt. These guys studied in Egypt for 20 and 30 years they studied. One of the greatest mathematicians that we know of, Pythagoras, who developed the Pythagoras theorem. Yes. He studied in ancient Egypt. All of them studied in ancient Egypt at the feet of our ancestors. And this is that wool right here, family. And that dark skin. These are some of the early paintings of a man who they call Jesus. Some of the early paintings. Some more of the early paintings. Moses crossing the Red Sea. We got to deal with the Red Sea one day. It ain't like what they've been teaching. First, we got to deal with Moses. Some more pictures. And some of the early churches in Europe even.
Wow.
Some more pictures. Black like soot.
Who's that?
This is in Hungary, right here. And this would be Mary. Check it out. Jeremiah 14. 1 through 6. The word of the Lord that came to Jeremiah concerning the deaf. Judah mourneth, and the gates thereof languish. They are black unto the ground, and the cry of Jerusalem is gone up. Now the scripture is telling us that Judah mourneth, and the gates thereof languish. They are black unto the ground. Judah is being compared to the ground once again, because the ground being black, Adam being made from the dust of the earth. It's not unusual to compare men of the Bible to the ground. So they're saying Judah is black unto the ground. Let me show you a different way. Which tribe did Jesus come out of? Judah. All right, watch this. This is black into the ground. And these are some of the statues throughout the world of the so-called Virgin Mary. Revelations. Here's the description of Jesus right here. Brother, let's go to Revelation 1 for me before we hit this, so that we'll see exactly what we're talking about. Revelation 1. Y'all all right? Any questions? Make sure my recording is still going here.
Revelation 1 and what?
1. Go 1 and 1. We just want to open it up just a touch. Coming right to you, family. Rashad, you should record it.
Yes, sir.
Revelation 1 and 1. Got it? Revelation 1 and 1. Let's get it.
This is a revelation from Jesus Christ.
The revelation of who?
This is a revelation from Jesus Christ.
So the revelation of Jesus Christ is what we're talking about. Go ahead.
Which God gave him to show his servants the events that must soon take place.
Okay, good, right there. So what I want y'all to see is that the revelation that John is being given is a revelation of Jesus Christ. All right? So when we go to 1 and 14, it says, his head and his hairs were white like wool, is white as snow, and his eyes as a flame of fire, and his feet like unto brass, as if it were burned in a furnace. Now, it says his hair was white like wool. White hair, but the texture is woolly. Right? So now, when we see this, what does wool look like? Oh, so when we look at wool, here, look at Nashad's hair. That's wool. That's what we're looking at. But here's what I want you to see, Rodriguez. It says, his feet like unto fine brass, as if it were burned in an oven, a furnace. You grew up in North Carolina?
Yes.
Did your grandma raise you a little bit? She ever burned biscuits?
Oh yeah.
What color were they?
Black.
All day, right? So look, if his feet are black, what color is his hand?
Black.
And what color is his face?
Black.
So this picture that they have up in the church, brother, it really shouldn't be there, right? Because this is not, unless he tell you exactly who it is. It is not the depiction of Jesus Christ. If Revelation describes Jesus like this, why is that on the wall? It's white supremacy. This is what I'm telling you. Christianity is white supremacy. And we're confirming it today. Now, it says in Lamentations, we don't have to go to this. Hosea. It says, Hosea 4, 1 through 9. It says, hear the word of the Lord, ye children of Israel. For the Lord hath controversy with the inhabitants of the land. Because there is no truth, no mercy, no knowledge of God in the land. And so what they're giving us now, really in the churches, is really no knowledge of God. Right? It says, by swearing and lying and killing. Now, this is a lie. If it's a lie, why is it there? I'm saying this is what we got to deal with. If it's a lie, why is it there? That doesn't mean that we're going to get everything right every single time. But there's some simple lies that we can get rid of. Skip down to 4. Ye let no man strive nor rapport another. For thy people are as they strive with the priest. Therefore shall they fall in the day, and the prophet also shall fall with thee in the night, and will destroy thy mother. My people are destroyed because of their lack of knowledge. That's why our people are destroyed, because of their lack of knowledge. You got something? No. Okay. All right. I'm almost finished. Let's keep rolling for a second. Let's go a little bit further. The first American schools. This is what I want you to get. The first American schools in the 13 original colonies opened in the 17th century. Where my young bloods at?
Right here.
Raise your hand if you can name a colony. Raise your hand if you can name a colony. Name one, son. Who? Give me one. Come on, guys.
Africa?
No. Come on.
I want to say.
You living in one.
Yeah, no.
Right, there you go. Hey, before we leave, I want y'all to name the 13 colonies, the original 13 colonies. Okay, it says 17th century, Boston Latin School was founded in 1635. It's both first public school and oldest existing school in the United States. Now, here's where I'm going with this. I don't have to read all this. The early school systems were set up based on church. The early school systems were. That's why early on you would teach Bible in the schools. But we've gotten away from that. But they weren't just teaching Bibles, really they were teaching white supremacy in the school system. But we don't teach Bible in the schools anymore, as you very well know. But what I wanted you to see is that early school systems were set up based on white supremacy, on church, but many of it was indoctrinated with white supremacy. Look at this. North Carolina passed the first laws prohibiting slave education in 1740. So even in 1740, you could not be educated. It says, while there were no limitations on reading, it became illegal for slaves to write. You couldn't write, you really couldn't read, but they didn't punish you if they caught you reading by the time of 1740. The legislation followed the Stonewall Rebellion as fears proliferated among the plantation owners concerning the spread of abolitionist and forged passes. One of the reasons why they didn't want you to teach the Bible according to your own understanding is because they knew that you would rebel against them. Go ahead, brother.
It was the slaves, and he got caught reading, and they burned his eyes.
Yeah, that's not common. The way that they would do slaves, if they found out they were trying to advance or grow. Many of you remember the Nat Turner revolt. Once Nat Turner learned how to read, he realized, because he was a preacher, he realized that what this slave master was teaching him was wrong. So he revolted in Southampton County, Virginia in 1831, which is only about what, maybe an hour from here?
That's Petersburg, right in that area.
Right in that area, yeah. Southampton County. Go ahead, brother.
Like around slavery time, like up, like in the north, not in the south, like north, like New York and all of that other stuff. Did they do the same thing or no?
The two largest slave ports in the United States of America, number one was South Carolina, and number two was New York. New York was the second largest slave port. More slaves went into New York than they did Georgia or South Carolina, or North Carolina. South Carolina was the largest slave port. New York was the second largest. That's why you found those burial grounds in New York. You found burial grounds in New York with slave bones right where the stock, the NASDAQ, the Dow, that bull that's out front. There's a slave burial ground right there. What's up, Jones? So, now, watch this. Now, we're talking about legislators and we're talking about white supremacy and how deeply rooted it is in the church. Check this out, Rodriguez. While standing before the Virginia House of Delegates on January 20th, 1832, Henry Berry made it clear what was needed to produce and maintain the condition of a slave. Now, Henry Berry is in the Virginia House of Delegates. He's standing before them, telling them what they needed to do to keep slaves slaves. Listen to what he says. He said, pass as severe laws as you will to keep these unfortunate creatures in ignorance. It is in vain unless you can extinguish the spark of intellect which God has given them. What he was saying is that as a legislator, you have a responsibility to legislate and implement laws that keep black people mental slaves. And again, this is why it was nothing for them to pass legislation that would give black people more time for crack cocaine than it would white people for powder cocaine. Because they understood. See, nobody has to tell them. They come into a system that's based upon these concepts and they teach these concepts. This is why, in part, our people are in the condition that we're in. And this is also why churches won't back away from it. Because churches know. What is this? These benefits. Turn around, sir. These benefits that the churches get from the federal government. What is it called? Y'all remember? It's called faith-based initiatives. Faith-based, turn around, sir. Faith-based initiative. Okay, let's keep rolling. More pictures. Harry S. Truman. Y'all remember him? President. Why is that so significant? Because remember, Harry S. Truman was the president that originally signed the legislation that said that Jerusalem would be the capital of Israel. Harry S. Truman. Here's what I want y'all to see. Look at the first 4 letters of his name. Trump.
He signed the one changing it from
Who?
was it Trump that had something to do with? Recently there was a change.
Trump recently, 70 years later, signed legislation that said Jerusalem will be the capital of Israel. Now, every year a president comes in, they never enforce what Truman signed. They would always waive it. Trump is the first president that signed the legislation. 70 years later, Israel has been in existence about 70 years. So Trump signed legislation based on Trump, T-R-U-M-P, Truman or Truman, T-R-U-M-A-N. There's a serious significance and attachment with the two. What am I telling you? The legislation has been signed by Trump to make Jerusalem the official capital of Israel. Here's also what I want you to see. Harriet Truman was connected with the Ku Klux Klan. In 1924, he was connected with the Ku Klux Klan.
Whoa.
He signed and got a membership, one of your presidents. But don't worry, all of them were like that. And we just got to recognize it for what it is. So what I'm showing you is that white supremacy is in Christianity, it's in our legislation, it's in our politics, it's in our it's everywhere. And we can't act like it doesn't exist, because it does. And we also can't act like it doesn't have an impact on our people, because it does.
Amen.
Here's another one. Senator Robert Byrd was a Klan recruiter, 1920s and 30s in West Virginia. Democrat. How many of y'all Democrats in here?
Right
Democratic.
here. Right
United States Senator. Byrd was a recruiter for the Klan while in the 20s and 30s. Recruiter. And listen to what he said after he got in Congress. He said, despite being the only senator to vote against both African-American U.S. Supreme Court nominees, y'all didn't hear that. Y'all didn't hear that. He voted against both United States Supreme Court nominees. Brother, this is the system that I'm telling you about.
But he said he's the only one. He was the only one?
Well, it says, despite being the only senator to vote against both African-American Supreme Court nominees, liberal Thurgood Marshall and conservative Clarence Thomas, and filibustering the Civil Rights Act of 1964, here's why you don't want the Civil Rights Act to go through. Even white women got to vote during the Civil Rights Act. White women couldn't vote before the Civil Rights Act. Now check out the depths of white supremacy. You would even have your own children and grandchildren to suffer and not be able to vote before you allow black people to vote. Now that's sick. But this is what you're dealing with. And you're dealing with people today that take the same approach. That's why many of them are willing to overturn. 22 million people are getting health care that couldn't get it. What's the problem with that? Why wouldn't you want people to be healthy? Why wouldn't you want people to get health care? People want to overturn it. Look, this guy right here, Klansman. Klansman. Known.
Hold up.
Yes.
Go back. I know my eyes is black. That's black or white? He black or white?
He white.
Oh, all right.
There ain't no black Klansman, brother.
And that's why I said hold up. Gonna go find it.
Now look. Now what I'm saying is that these are all legs of white supremacy. Christianity is a tool. Modern day Christianity now. Now don't y'all get up there and say that I don't believe in Jesus. I ain't never said that. I never said that. But what I'm saying is that modern day Christianity is nothing more than white supremacy. That's all I'm saying. That's all. You sit there with them guys you work with. You hear them talk. They claim they're Christians, don't they? And they talk all kind of junk about us, don't they? I know. Yeah. So look at this now. So look at this next guy. Hugo Black. Supreme Court Justice Hugo Black. Associate Justice. I want to go back for a second. I want to show you something, brother. Despite being the only senator to vote against both African American Supreme Court nominees. Now, he voted against the Supreme Court nominees. But he did it because, number one, he was a white supremacist, and he was following the order of the Ku Klux Klan. They didn't want any parts of white people, of black people in politics, period. All right, Hugo Black, Supreme Court Justice for the United States Court. Hugo Black, Democrat, 1920. Black successfully defended E.R. Stevens in a sensationalistic trial of the murder of a Catholic priest. He joined the Ku Klux Klan shortly after thinking it was necessary for his political career. So these are congressmen, senators, and judges that joined the Ku Klux Klan. And when they joined the Ku Klux Klan, they followed the order of the Grand Wizard. And the Grand Wizard laid out the process for them and what they need to legislate. That's why it was so easy for them to pass the 3 strikes and you're outlawed. It was easy because they already have that mindset. Because they they come into it understanding exactly what to do. They know what to do. They know that they are to pass. Let me go back. They read these documents. Look, while standing before the Virginia House of Delegates on January 20th, 1832, Mr. Henry Bear made it clear that they needed to produce and maintain the condition of the slave. He said, pass as severe laws as you will to keep these unfortunate creatures in ignorance. And this is what we're continually seeing, especially during the Trump administration, to continue to try to keep us in ignorance. Pass as harsh sentences. 3 strikes, you're out. Look at the number of young black boys and girls that got locked up that are still in jail. Even brothers we know right around here. First-time offenders, man. 20 years. First-time offenders. I mean, this is sick.
Yes.
But see, all of this is a part of the white supremacy that we see in the United States of America perpetuating itself through Christianity. Yes.
What is it about the black man that they fear so bad?
Good God. Man, you got about 6 years I can answer that question. But I'm going to answer it in 60 seconds. Anybody want to take a stab at it before I go get it? Anybody want it? Well, okay. They fear God. That's really what it is. But they don't fear God from the reverence and respect perspective. They fear him as in they are afraid of him. See, they know what we can do. They know that once we come into the mind of God, we're going to overturn this world. They already know it. And that means that he can no longer rule. See, they know that they came from us. And once you know somebody came from you, there's always a subordinate mindset that you have. So you got to fictitiously raise yourself into a system of white supremacy that make you feel like you're greater than me because you really know I am the greatest. You already know that. Now, in understanding that, they fear your rise because they know you will usher in God's kingdom, which will not allow their lifestyle to live anymore. You won't be able to do the things. Book of Isaiah chapter 6 verse 9 talks about a government coming in on the shoulders. Christ is bringing a government in. They understand that we are the people to bring that government in. They understand that we are the Israelites. They understand all of that. So the world that we will bring in will be based on righteousness. He wants an unrighteous world. Book of Job chapter 9 verse 24. We say this all the time. God has turned the earth over into the hand of who? The wicked. Right? They're ruling right now. And once you come into power and understanding, you will rule. But you will rule more so from a godly perspective. And this is what they fear. Not only that, there's a genetic annihilation fear. Dr. Francis Creswellson writes about it extensively in the ISIS paper. When you look at his growth population birth rate, dwindling. Less than 0. Right? Ours is still above 0. That means that for everyone is born that dies, another one is born. We're above maybe 6 or 8 or something. We're high up there. He's below 0. So every one of his that dies, there's not another one born. So he's hanging on to dear life. He's trying to survive. And he knows that his survival is in your destruction. This is why you see what happened with my mama right here. They sterilized her because they fear that we will come along like I'm coming along. They feared that black men would start taking on this mindset and come against them. So they put systems in place, sister, to destroy us. And the eugenics program in the state of North Carolina is just one of them. He's afraid of genetic annihilation. The sun is killing him. Fact. This is why he wants to create a new sun. Because the sun is killing him. Cancer is killing him. He's becoming sterile because he has no melanin to protect him. And we do. We're the people of the sun. He's not. So he feared all of those things. And this is why they come against us like they do. But you know, you can't stop us.
Right.
Ain't nothing gonna stop this from coming into fruition. But he thinks that he can stop us. But watch this. Every time, Brother Jones, that he goes and do bad stuff to us, God getting it. God getting it. Somewhere it's written in one of them books. Which one is it? You shall reap what you sow. What goes around comes around. What goes up must come down. We know this. We understand these concepts. So you can do to us what you want. God got you, partner. You will not escape it. And look, I don't want to get into the sensitivity stuff, but well, anyway, y'all saw what happened in Florida. Very unfortunate.
What happened in Florida?
Young man went into school and shot up all those people. Very unfortunate. Very unfortunate. I mean, that's a terrible thing.
But they had already seen it. They had already saw signs. They hadn't been told. This boy was already talking about. They never did nothing.
It was premeditated.
And then look what happened. He went and did it.
Now, you know, anyway, I'm sensitive to that. I don't want to open up that bag.
Sins on your father.
Huh?
Sins on your father.
There you go, right there. I mean, you ain't escaping. You ain't escaping. When you do wrong, I remember in Jacksonville, I talked about this in one of the other videos, but it's been a little around a year ago, in Jacksonville, Mississippi. They burned this black guy. First they shot him in the leg, boom, so he couldn't run. Cut his head off, then burned him alive. Then took his head and set it on one of his relatives' porch and turned it so bypassers could see it. The next weekend in Jackson, Mississippi, a plane went down carrying 16 passengers, and all of them died. And all of them were white people that died. I'm not advocating for this, but what I'm telling you is that you can't do what you do to people and expect that there are no repercussions.
That's right.
So this is ancient African culture. See, we truly understand this. This resonates with us. Although we don't really practice it, we understand it. We understand, nah, you better not go take nothing from Miss Betty Jean. Boy, don't do that. You know, or you better not do this over here. Our grandmothers repeatedly enforced this to us. But we've gotten so far away from these concepts, although we still understand them. So we know if Jones does something to me, I ain't got to go chase him. Leave him alone. And watch you see what happened to Jones. As a matter of fact, the mere fact that you don't chase him will give more power to something happening to him soon. This is how we always live. Anybody got anything? So, sister, to answer your question, there are a lot of fears. And I think next Sunday I'm gonna hit that lecture that based on that question that you just answered. But the genetic annihilation, black male superiority. I don't like to use the word superiority, but black male dominance, black male strength. Every area that we go in and we allow a free playing field, we dominate.
Yes.
Including education.
Yes.
Right? We dominate. So people fear that. And because they fear that, they put systems in place to try to stop that. That's why our young boys they're so quick to prescribe medicine for them so that they can derail them. They're so quick to send them into juvenile institutions and so forth and so on so they can derail them. They know what they're doing.
Well,
they're
it
trying
ain't
to
gonna
prevent
work.
the rise of the black Messiah.
It won't work because the Messiah shall come forth.
Oh, ain't no doubt about it. And that's why Hoover wrote that document in 1967 where they feared the rise of a black Messiah. And so in 1967, he wrote that. All right, sit up straight, like a big boy. He wrote that, right? And so they've been implementing that the whole time. Look at this. Christian identity, also known as kingdom identity. Here's something that I really want y'all to get. Or the Christian Israel movement is a racist variant of fundamentalist Christianity that unites a number of factions in the Ku Klux Klan and neo-Nazi. Check this out. Right now, there's something called Christendom, which is a political religious system that slides under the title of Christianity. It's where the Eurocentric value systems are being perpetuated throughout societies to elevate and raise the European while destroying non-Europeans. This is really at work. This is really at work real hard. And what's happening as a result of this, they are orchestrating and serious. But all that also means is that we have to start formulating our own systems so that we can raise our own children up in a way that's progressive for our own children. And if we don't do this, we're going to continue to fall by the wayside. But what I want you to understand is an active movement. Sister will tell you when she was working down at the beach, right behind the church, they were doing what, sister?
Teaching the kids how to shoot guns.
Teaching them how to shoot guns.
Rifles,
This is a part of this. The reason why the Ku Klux Klan are able to stand is because they fall under the title as a religious organization. You follow me? That's why they're still able to exist. And in that religious organization, they're sending out instructions to churches that are connected with them that's setting up organizing gun camps where the kids will come in, learn how to tear guns down, clean them, learn how to shoot guns, target practicing. All of these things are in place. Very similar to what Hitler did under the title of brown shirts in the early 30s. So this is what this is about. It's about an organized system that's in place to perpetuate white supremacy. And you see it in many ways. Many white supremacist organizations in the United States, such as Posse, Comitus, Aryan Nations, and Emerald militia groups, draw the inspiration from a theology known as Christian identity, which argues, check out this line, which argues that the white race of North America is descended from the lost tribes of Israel. And is hence the chosen people spoken of in the Bible. This is what they teach.
Impossible.
And they're doing that. And they're hiding your identity. And that's why you see over, when they do these archaeological digs in ancient Egypt, you see these dark people, but then by the time it gets to us, these people look white. This is all a part of this Christian identity thing, right? Which is nothing but your white supremacy that has found its way into Christianity. So they're setting these things up to continue to put their mission out. Anybody got any questions? Here's another example. This is one of the Celtic symbols that you see. And you see these symbols on churches too. I know you don't pay any attention to them, but start checking them out. It says Celtic cross was originally the symbol of the Celts in ancient Ireland and Scotland. The Celtic cross has been adopted by many American white supremacy groups. They identify and incorporates white supremacy slogan, white pride, worldwide. You see these on churches all the time. Now, I don't know. You see them now, it'll register, but you see these on a lot of churches.
What does that star mean on a lot of houses down in the country?
I see that a lot, but I don't know what it means. I have no idea, but you see it all the time. And I don't know what it is unless, I don't know. I don't even want to start to guess.
They're watching it. Do you know what that means? Deep down in the country parts of Pacoima County, I see it on people's houses.
Oh yeah, in barns, you see it all the time.
Secret society.
Here's another one right here, another cross you see. Ku Klux Klan, blood drop. The drop is one of the KK's best known symbols for Klan members. The drop represents the blood that Christ shed on the cross. I'm trying to show you the racism that has gotten into Christianity, the white supremacy that has gotten into Christianity. That's why we have to continue to teach the truth so that we can overcome this nonsense that's being taught.
Some people had those on their shirts.
Christendom or Christian world has several meanings in a cultural sense. It refers to the worldwide community of Christians, adherents of Christianity. In its historical sense, the term usually refers to medieval and early modern period during which the Christian world represented geopolitical power juxtaposed with both paganism and especially the military of the Muslim world. So what we're saying right here is that when we look at Christendom, right? Christendom is a system that's used to perpetuate white supremacy in politics. This is what we're looking at. Colossians, slaves, obey your earthly masters in everything that you do, not only when their eye is on you and to curry the favor, but the serenity of heart and reverence of the Lord. Slaves, obey your earthly master. This is why you still will find this in churches, because the slaves are obeying the earthly master. I'm almost finished. The curse of Cain. I'm not going to get into all that, but you guys all know about that, where they say we're the descendants of Ham because we were cursed, and we're black because of the curse. We were black before Ham came on the scene, right? The original people of the earth were black, but the Mormons perpetuate this still in their religious doctrine. And do you know it was a Jewish woman that came up with this concept in the 1800s? A Jewish woman, out of all people, I can't think of her name, came up with this concept in the actual 1800s. I'm almost finished. Rex 84. These are serious systems that we need to talk about another time. When you could get a chance, just Google Rex 84. But down at the bottom is a proposal which proposed the detention of the 21 million American Negroes if there were a black militant uprising in the United States. This is done under Oliver North. This system was laid out to understand how to deal with the Negro uprising, where they will put them, and so forth and so on. This is what this is all about. Many governments have this, by the way. Many state governments already have this in play. To understand the connection between Christendom's principle of discovery and the laws of the United States, we need to begin by examining a papal document issued 40 years before Columbus' historic voyage into the United States of America. This thing goes real deep. And for the sake of time, I'm just going to fast forward. But if you get a chance, just Google these things. You know, especially, what is it right here? To understand the Christendom's principle of discovery of the law of the United States. The papal document. P-A-P-A-L document. Right? 40 years before the coming of Columbus. I'm not going to get into it. That's just,
what does that document entail?
It talks about the destruction of us and the rising of the white race. How to do it. How to go about removing us, minimizing us, destroying us, and raising themselves. And the Rex document talks about how to obtain us during the event of a militant uprising and so forth and so on. FEMA camps will be used. All of this stuff is in it. You get a chance, you go Google it. White House, in federal emergency, FEMA would be associated and so forth and so on. All of this stuff is serious, but the whole thing is how to contain you and keep you a slave. Now imagine if we were really taught these things early on and stuck with these things that we're taught. And this right here, this lady did this study about skin bleaching and white supremacy that I was talking about earlier. That's all this is. The other side of blackness talks more about skin bleaching and the chemicals that they use in the skin bleaching and the effects that it has on your body long term. This is what this article is about.
Now, the papal document, or whatever it was called, is that in conjunction with Willie Lynch?
No, it's totally different from Willie Lynch.
Okay.
I mean, Willie Lynch is something that was happening during slavery, but this right here is the Rex 84 and the papal document are documents that are used by our government on how to keep us from rising up, how to keep us indoctrinated in the mindset that we're in now, and how to elevate white people. That's the difference between it. And that because these documents were implemented after slavery. So, Ohio has banned, just about 75% of reasonable hairstyles for school-age African-American girls. They don't want them wearing braids. Many of them don't want them wearing Afro puffs at school anymore. They're removing these concepts away from you, like the puff that your daughter had, brother. She couldn't do that in Ohio.
Why? That's stupid.
Why? Because of this right here. Because of this right here.
You want to do white supremacy.
Because of this right here. Africa, right? The association with this. These hairstyles, right? But you're right. It's all based on white supremacy, right? But the real thing, now look. Now those of you that might not know, I'm not getting into this today because it's a long drawn out conversation. Not only is this tribal identity, these are spiritual representations that are on these women's heads. These styles are spiritual. It's not just a tribal connection. There's spiritual connections associated with this. Let me show you what I mean. So you see this? This not only tells you which tribe she may have come from or what part of Africa she may come from, it also tells you what her studies are. Now watch this. Y'all recognize this?
Yeah. That's an Olmec head.
The Olmec head found where? In South America. How long ago? 2,500 years. That means that, look, this thing weighs over 2.5 tons. This means that black people were here at least 2,500 years ago.
And that's skilled to create that in detail like that?
Huh?
And that's skilled to create that in detail like that.
Look at the lips and the nose. Look at us. Yeah, there you go. Now watch this. Look at this. Now what I want you to see is the reason why they knew he was Egyptian is because of the imprint on the back and the braids on the back. This is how they knew he was Egyptian. This is why they knew exactly where he came from. So when
on
you
the back
see
of the
sisters,
head.
the back of the head, the back of this right here, it's braids. But look, sister, so you ask why they don't want rocking air puffs? Because they know it's all connected to this. And in their mind, we're coming into that understanding. And they don't, they don't want that. They don't want you to be able to go back into those spiritual systems that you once had. Because the evidence of it is this, Rodriguez. We start naming our children names outside of what they gave us. Roundtree, James Baldwell. When we start naming our children these African names, it's an association back with Africa. So are these hairstyles. And that's why they told Iverson, you can't wear braids in the NBA.
Right.
Because they didn't want him to awake other people to the concept behind the daggone braids. Now you don't see any brothers wearing braids anymore in the NBA.
You got one wearing afro.
Oh yeah. Look, so all of this means something spiritual. All of this does. And so,
that's why a lot of NBA players now, not the braids, but more the night hair.
Yeah. Same thing. These are all African hairstyles. And all of these hairstyles used to mean something to us. We don't know what they mean anymore. But the European, many of them know. That's why right here again, he can come right here. And when he saw that old Mac head, and he knew what the lips meant. He knew what the nose, that's Negro. Ain't no getting around that, Jones. That's Negro. But when he flipped this thing over, and he saw that this guy right here was an ancient priest, African priest, a king, when he saw this, oh man, he was blown away. I'm almost there. So, let me summarize. So what we wanted to show you today is how white supremacy had entered Christianity. And it is, it's there. It's whether you want to own it or not. Then what we also wanted to show you is that the lack of visibility and representation that we have as a collective, as a people, we need to start standing firm on our belief system. It's okay for our belief system to be different from theirs. There's nothing wrong with that. The Chinese belief system is different from theirs. The Japanese belief system is different from theirs. What's wrong with our system being different? And we need to start going back to our systems as old. If you didn't get anything else out of this lecture, when the ancient Africans practiced Christianity, they practiced it for one purpose: to make them one with God. Period. Make them one with God.
Not to make us slaves, not to separate us from God, but to become one with God. That's the purpose of the old style Christianity. And as quiet as it's taught, it's the same purpose of Islam. Now I know that we're not in the Islamic audience. I understand that. But at some point, you can get mad all you want to. We got to go here. At some point, we got to go here. We cannot stay in the third grade. We can't do it. At some point, we got to graduate. At some point, we got to go here. We got to go here. We cannot stay in kindergarten expecting to be college students. At some point, we got to go to the Book of the Dead. At some point, we cannot stay with King James. Now, we're dropping it to kind of slowly bring you off of King James. But we're going here, and we got to go here. We got to. Now, if you don't, if you want to know the truth, you got to come. You got to come. Now, we're giving you the truth based on the Bible. But the Bible is not the only book with the truth. I'm sorry. Amen.
It's not the only book with the truth. Like, there's more than one way to get to New York from here. Right? There's more than one way to go to Gates County.
Teach.
Right? So we got to understand that we had more than one spiritual system in place. What did we practice before there were books? That's the question. What did we practice before we built the pyramid? What did we practice after we built the pyramid? How do we come into the building and understanding of the pyramid? How did our spiritual science become that high that we could do things that other people couldn't do? Because it was our religion. It was our religious system. It was our spiritual system that we took into our everyday walk of life. Any questions? Any questions from the audience, sister? Oh, anybody got a question? Y'all got any questions? Come on, Rodriguez. I know you got something, brother. Let me have it.
Wonderful lesson.
Yeah, but you ain't got no question.
I'm just,
All right, let me ask you a
it's
question.
got me thinking. I'm just,
let me ask you this question right here. So now, Revelations 1 and 14 clearly lets us know that Jesus looked like Abel, looked like Levi, looked like Jonah, looked like brother, looked like sister. We know that clearly now, based on Revelation. Feet like brass as if it were burning up.
Right.
Right? Now, how do you deal with that? Knowing that now, and you go to church and you see that white picture on the wall.
Give me another look.
Give you another look.
And mine started, as we come like you said, we've been brainwashed for so long with the white folks had us thinking that Jesus was a white man.
Yeah.
But not knowing, that's why it tells us to read.
That's right. Absolutely.
If we learn to read, we would know all the things that you are teaching.
Mm-hmm.
But by us listening to what you are teaching, and it's the truth, and we're getting what you are saying, we must read ourselves and put it within our own spirit.
Yeah,
so that
absolutely.
we can see that what you are saying is true.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? We just can't follow. Most people like to follow what a person say
Study
and not
and show.
and don't check it.
What scripture say, Alina?
You check back
Study
and
to
see
show
Right.
what is being said so that you know that it's a fact.
Absolutely, brother.
And so,
Absolutely.
everything that you said today is touching. It's a wake up.
Yeah.
And just by looking at my kids as of now, I'm starting to see something different.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
what I really want my kids to see, or do I want to see my kids what you are telling me that the word is saying
Right.
in the Bible, and it speaks for itself.
Absolutely.
It's like, it is.
So,
I told him it was gonna be tight.
yeah, well, I'm glad you came, brother. We got to start getting more people involved. I mean, that's the other side. We got to start getting more people involved now. That's the next step. Now, we know that mountains start from little molehills. We understand that. But we gotta grow this. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Before you all get comfortable in dialect, close out.
Say again.
Before y'all get comfortable in dialect, close out.
Okay. How you want me to close out today?
Never
Okay.
mind.
All right. Okay. Listen, family.
I'll close out for you.
Okay, go ahead. You close now. Okay, cool.
Thank y'all for joining us. Come back next Sunday, 12:30, maybe 1 o'clock. Bye.
Thank you, sister.
And God bless all of y'all.
Like,